take for granted water that's clean and fresh and comes out of our tap like that for us. But a great opportunity for us to partner with places where they don't have the benefit that we have, that we can help them get the clean water that they need for their keep them healthy and their bodies. Keep them alive and keep them healthy as well. I thought we're going to play a bit of a game. Who likes games? You like games? This is a word. It's called word association game. So I'm going to say a word, and then you call out something that pops into your mind when you think of this word. All right? So I'm going to say dog. Oh, cat. Interesting. All right. Tree. Leaves. Apple. Ooh, interesting. Joy. I heard happiness. Jesus. Ooh, interesting. Pencil. Sharpener. What was that one? Paper. Yes. Love. I heard God. Yes. What else did someone have with love? Happiness. Yep. Joy. Awesome. Banana. Skin. Apple. Did anyone say monkey? Oh, that was the first thing that popped into my head when I thought banana. Something gross. Oh, so obviously someone doesn't like bananas. Money. Cash. Rich. Poor. Any others? Root of all evil. Interesting. We're going to come to that in a little while. Awesome. So, the Salvation Army here in Bunbury has been able to have this year, it's just started, our money care services. Has anyone not heard of money care before in the Salvation Army? I know Ben's nodding his head. It's a service that is financial counselling. It's free, and it's been around in the Salvation Army for a while, but here in Bunbury, we've only been able to access it via a phone service. But as of this year, the team is going to be coming down to Bunbury here for 2 days a month. And so they've come in January, and they come in February, and they're coming again in March. And I think it's the 9th and 10th. I should have looked up the dates before I wrote, but I'll get you the dates for next week anyway, because it's not until the following week anyway. So it's a phone service available all the time, but we now have the benefit of people being able to book face-to-face. So actually being able to talk with someone about financial matters or concerns that they have, or just some advice around money and finances. So on their visit earlier this month, they came at the beginning of this month, they conducted a workshop from a series that they called You're the Boss, because they want, the idea is that we become the boss of our money, not the money become the boss of us. Anyone feel like the money is ruling their life? This is about flipping the script and making us feel like we're in charge. So it was really insightful, and they explored our thoughts around money and how our past thinking, including our childhood, impacts our dealings around finance now and what we think about money. So when, you think cash, you think rich, you think poor, like rich and poor are the two extremes of what people are thinking about money, obviously. And root of evil, those sorts of things. We have this understanding of what we think about money already in us today that has been impacted from our past and what's happened before us. So one of the activities that we shared was each person had to name a first memory that they had involving money. So some of the discussions they had was, people remembering getting pocket money as a kid, remembering, it was only 5 cents to get a giant bag of lollies. Some of them remembered going to the shop for their parents, and you used to be able to go and buy things that you cannot buy today for your parents. And so they remember that sort of experience around money. And then others talked about the tooth fairy and being able to get money under their pillow or in a little envelope or whatever, however the parents did it. So they talked about those sorts of things. But for others, there wasn't such positive memories around money. It might have been that your parents didn't have a lot of money, was the memory, or that you were told off for breaking something that was worth a lot of money. And so not all of our memories and experiences are positive around money. Another activity that we did was we had to choose a song or a movie title that kind of summed up how we felt about money. So one of the ladies picked the movie Red 1 because she's a red fanatic. She loves anything red, shiny, she's there. She's buying it. So that was her experience. Another person used the song Under Pressure by Queen because that's how they felt about money. They were always under pressure. Someone else said, the song, if anyone's watched The Greatest Showman, with Hugh... I was going to say Hugh Grant. It's not. Hugh Jackman, that's the right Hugh. Never enough, never, never. Because that was their experience. They just never had enough money. My song was actually Macklemore's Thrift Shop. Because I love to buy from thrift shops. But I found these exercises really interesting as it helped me see how we might have a particular mindset around money and financial matters that is influenced, obviously, from the past, but influences us today and how we think about money. Some of us have positive feelings and experiences, while others have negative feelings or experiences around money. And what I've realised is that we all have a particular mindset around money or finances in general. And I think God knows this too, because there are many places in the Bible that address money and finances. And I did a bit of a Google search. I've got to admit, this is not my own research. This is according to Google. There are over 2,300 verses in the Bible relating to money, wealth, and possessions. And roughly 15% of Jesus' recorded teaching. So just those books of the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke and John, where Jesus is doing his teaching. So 15% of what Jesus talked about dealt with money and possessions. That's quite high. He had a lot on his agenda, and for 15% of it to be about money and possessions, there's obviously a reason why there's that much. There's obviously something we need to learn as humans about this. So clearly God knew that this topic would be something that people would need guidance on. But God didn't talk about this simply because it would be a popular topic, but to show the connection between money and our mindsets, or our hearts, as it's described in Scripture. It was not to show that money in and of itself is bad, but how we think about money can either lead us towards God, or away from God. So that line, and Francis called out the money is the root of all evil. Slightly, there's some extra wording in there. So 1 Timothy 6 verse 10 says, "For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil." Money itself is not good or bad. It's the love of money. And some people eager for money have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. So it's that love, that desire, that want that can lead us away from God. Money issues is one of the leading causes of relationship breakdowns and divorce. It can also be a major contributor in domestic violence. Crimes like theft, fraud, and even drug trafficking is often driven by money. But it is more about the mindset that we have around money. Because not everybody's out there stealing cars and stealing money from banks. It's a mindset that we have. Not everybody is breaking up because, you've got money troubles. It's a mindset around what is happening around how we think about money, wealth, and possessions. So when did this become a problem for us? Is this just something, today's world? Is this just something that happened in Jesus' time and maybe that's where it kick-started? Well, I actually think we can trace this whole mindset back to the very first story that we read in the Bible, the beginning of time, when God had created the first man and the first woman. When God created Adam and Eve, he gave them a beautiful garden with everything in it and said to them, here, this is all for you. Every tree, every plant, every animal, I want you to look after it. And we use the word dominion. That doesn't mean go in and destroy. It means go in and look after, care for it. And he gave us everything. And he told them to go forth and multiply. Like, this was a place of abundance. This was a place of fruitfulness. But there was one little exception. God told them not to eat the fruit from one particular tree. He gave them every other tree. He had avocado trees. He had peach trees. He had, all the nuts in the world. He had all the grains, everything that you can think of. But he said, this one particular tree, I don't want you to eat from this one. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Now you're probably thinking, what is she talking about? There's no mention of money in this story. There are no ATMs or banks or even tax collectors. Yes, that's true. But I think our mindset for money, wealth and possessions has these origins from the beginning. For those that know the story and have heard the story about when God has created them all and in this lovely garden, Adam and Eve are enjoying life, but they get tempted. They get a serpent that comes by and places doubt in their mind. Doubt that God is holding out on them. Because, it's all right, you can have this tree. You can eat this fruit. Adam and Eve are led to believe that with all that God had provided for them, so much, everything that I could see, he'd provided for them. But that the lie was that it was not enough. That they were missing out on something. That there was something in there that they still wanted, even though they had everything at their fingertips. The mindset of wanting more than they had already been given started in the garden. The distrust of God's provision had begun. They weren't trusting God that he was going to give them everything they needed. They went, no, he's not given us that tree. We need that tree. And they were deceived into being tempted by the serpent to eat from that. And this theme continues throughout the Bible. We see stories like the Israelites grumbling about manna and quail that God has provided for them in the wilderness. Never enough is kind of the song they're singing. It's not enough, God. We want more. We're not happy with this stingy bread and meaty little things that you're giving us. It's not enough. And there's a story in the book of 1 Kings that is about King Ahab. Now, he was not a very nice king, but he wanted his neighbour's Naboth's vineyard. And he just wanted some extra land. He was, just wanting extra stuff. And then, so he went to Naboth and he said, can I buy your land? I want your vineyard. And Naboth said, no, that's mine. And so he wasn't happy. The king murdered Naboth in order to get the land. Never enough. He was not pleased with what he already had. Now, kings in those days had a lot, but he wanted more. King David, he was a great king, but he had his faults. He takes the woman Bathsheba, who is not his wife. He was not happy. King David had everything on his fingertips, but he was not happy. He was singing the song, never enough. I want her too. In the New Testament, we see two of Jesus' friends, James and John, fighting about being higher in status, sitting at Jesus' right and left side. They wanted to have those prime places. They weren't happy enough to just be part of the kingdom of God and be in Jesus' presence. They wanted prime place. They wanted prime status. Never enough. It was not enough that they had Jesus with them. They wanted the top spot. Jesus tells the story of the prodigal son who takes all his inheritance and wastes it on partying lifestyle. And we think that's, the main focus of the story. But then when he comes back, his older brother gets mad about the father lavishing on that son. This story is just as much about this older brother and his attitude towards not just the money, the inheritance, but this older son was jealous of what the younger brother had got. When all along he had the very same inheritance right under his nose. That older brother had his share because he still stayed with the father. He could have had a fattened calf any time he wanted. But no, he was jealous because of when the brother came back, they made a big fuss about him. He had everything that the father had provided already there. Never enough. Jealousy, greed, and a mindset of wanting more and not even acknowledging God's provision already there. So what is the mindset that God does want us to have in regards to money, wealth, and possessions? Ultimately, he wants us to trust in his provision and realize that all that we have has been given by him. Jehovah Jireh, we sang, my provider, his grace is sufficient for me. Always enough should be our song instead of never enough. Always enough. From the very beginning, God has given us his creation and everything in it to look after, to steward, to be God's money and asset managers. We're all part of looking after what God has given us and remembering it is all a gift given to us by God. And it reminds us of this in the book of Chronicles. It says, but who am I and who are my people that we could give anything to you? Everything we have has come from you, and we give you only what you first gave us. It all comes from him. We can only give out of what was first given to us. Deuteronomy says, but remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the ability to produce wealth. We don't do it in and of ourselves. God gives us the ability to give and to gain. The book of James says, every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights, who does not change like shifting shadows. Corinthians says, what do you have that you did not receive? Really, what do we have that we have not been given? From someone else? From the government? From our jobs? We've received from God. And it says, and if you did receive it, why do you boast as though you did not? Acts says, rather he himself gives everyone life and breath and everything else. And we started with the psalm at the beginning of our service. The earth is the Lord's and everything in it, the world and all who live in it. The world will say that we need a mindset of scarcity, and it suggests we will never have enough. I think that's the lie we are led into. That's the serpent at the very beginning saying, you don't have enough. You need this as well to be happy. Just like he deceived Adam and Eve into taking from the knowledge of good and evil tree. The world and the serpent's alive and well in the world today, deceiving us that we haven't got enough. We need X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. A mindset of scarcity suggests we will never have enough, where a mindset of abundance assures us that we will always have enough and even have overflow. So how do we cultivate this different mindset. Because it's so easy to be in the scarcity one, because that's, like Mark talked about last week, we're kind of born stingy. We're born with this idea, and the world perpetuates it. So how do we counteract it? What can we do to change our mindsets to one of abundance, to one of provision? Well, I think the first step is we need to recognise that it's all God's to start with. Many of you may have heard of the principle of tithing, of giving 10% of what we earn back to God. I like to see it not just giving this amount to God, but that he says to us, you get to keep 90%. Because it's all his anyway. You get to keep 90%. Just give me a little bit back. And it's way more generous than the government. The government take more than 10% in taxes. I think God is an incredibly generous God. Another way I think we can cultivate this mindset of abundance is to practice gratitude. See what you do have and be thankful for it. Rather than focusing on what you don't have, because that's easy. We can all see what we don't have. But it's deliberately focusing on what do I have. And the more you see what you have, the less you will see what you don't have. And they've actually done studies on people that are grateful. It improves health outcomes. So what our mind focuses on, we become. So if we focus on the negative, we become negative. If we focus on the amazing blessings that God has, we become more joyful and content. And we need to view our resources of time, talent, money and possessions as tools to help others, not just for personal use. And realising it is more than money. It's not just about money. It's our time, skills, support, attention, and even forgiveness is to be shared with others. To cultivate a mindset of abundance, I think, is to give without expectation or recognition. Not expecting anything in return, even a thank you. And sometimes we do things that go completely unnoticed by anybody. But you know, God is always watching and he sees. And Mark talks about his grumpy money. I think that's another way we can help with our mindset, is to give cheerfully. If you are reluctant, then maybe you've got a mindset of scarcity and not one of abundance. Trust in God's provision. Provision from our families, our friends, our jobs, the government, and anywhere else are all unreliable. You can't count on it. We can lose a job. We can have family that take our money. We can have friends that rip us off. But God's provision can be trusted. God wants to give to us. His nature is generous. He doesn't withhold when we stuff up. He will still continue to give. He gave us his son, Jesus. Not because we were good and it was a reward for our best behaviour. He gave us his son because we were naughty. We couldn't do it. We were broken. He gave because that's who he is. He's a generous God. John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his one and only son. Luke says, give and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over will be poured into your lap. That's abundance. Psalm 145 says, the Lord is good to all. He has compassion on all he has made. You open your hand and satisfy the desires of every living thing. He takes care of all his creation. Corinthians says, and God is able to bless you abundantly. There's that big word, abundantly. So that in all things, at all times, having all that you need, you will abound in every good work. Romans, he who did not spare his own son, but gave him up for us all, how will he not also, along with him, graciously give us all things? Not just a little bit on the side. Gives us all things. Philippians, my God will meet all your needs according to the riches of his glory. And we sang that today. Do you declare these things as truth? Maybe we need to hold on to one of these verses today as our promise from God. Matthew says, but seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. When our mindset is on the kingdom and God, we get all that abundance. We get that mindset that God is our provider. Maybe we need to claim this as our promise, a statement of facts in times when everything around us says otherwise. Because the world will tell you, you don't have enough. The enemy will get in your head and tell you, you don't have enough. That's a lie. But we can be assured that my God will meet all your needs. So how is your mindset around money, wealth and possessions? Is it one of fear or is it one of faith? What is it that has stood out to you today? What is God speaking into your life at this time? Is God saying to trust his provision? Are you reminded to be more thankful and to practice gratitude? Is it to ensure that your giving is done without expectation or recognition? Or is it simply to remember that everything that I have has been given to me as a gift from God? I believe that God has a message for each of us today. It may not be the same for all of us, but my prayer is that you hear exactly what it is that God is wanting you to hear, and that you may go from this place claiming whatever promise that God has for you, or putting into practice what it is that God is challenging you. We're going to take this time to listen and hear from God, what it is that He's speaking to you right now. And we're going to listen to this song that's called The Lord Will Provide. And I'm just going to read some of the lyrics of the song. It says, look at the flowers in all of their beauty. I don't have to wonder, you know what you're doing. So why would I worry at all when you're faithful to supply? Everything I need, my Father has it.